This is WJTV News Channel 12 this morning.
And the power of the gospel has changed many families and many lives, and I'm grateful for that, to be just a small part of that whole story, that whole unfolding, I'll call it.
A pastor and his family celebrates 45 years of impacting the community from the pulpit. It's Sunday morning. We are putting faith in focus. The old saying goes, when you're young, you have the energy, and when you're old, you have the wisdom. Well, at Cade Chapel Missionary Baptist Church, their senior pastor might just have both, plus a thriving faith community. This Sunday, we are there as he's given us some perspectives after nearly a half century of service putting faith in focus. Horace Buckley is a pastor. His father was a pastor. His son is a pastor.
Probably not a week that goes by that I don't hear from someone in the community who, when they hear my name, they ask, oh, are you the son of? This is Dad, of course, Mom.
So my son is the executive pastor. I'm the senior pastor, and he tells me what to do, of course. and I get away with not doing half of it.
Oftentimes he will talk about being a boy riding his bicycle, looking into the window of this church and not realizing that he was playing in the shadow of his future.
We took this church to full-time service where we were having services every Sunday. And so, of course, we preached about growing in grace and growing in the Lord and becoming the individuals God wants us to be and the institution God has called us to be.
Cade Chapel's impact and influence continues today with their Family Life Center and housing missions. But Pastor Buckley says it starts inside people outside of the church, acting out God's teachings on days away from Sunday.
It's got to be seen in the congregation, in their lives, and what they do. You know, if it doesn't show up there, I have failed. My teaching didn't take. So, and that's the challenge. That's the challenge we have as pastors and as church leaders and as teachers. And that must be the impact we have. If that impact is not felt, then our lives have not been worth its salt. Because the challenge is Christ has to live in us. And if Christ lives in us, he will resurrect in others through our teaching and through the examples we provide. If that happens, I'll die a satisfied preacher. Well, I'll be translated, transformed, taken out and put into some other place. And I'll accept that. I'll accept that.
And Pastor Buckley says he grew up on Town Creek off Ferris Street, and in 1975 he was elected to the Mississippi House of Representatives, focusing on education and housing issues.
This is WJTV News Channel 12 this morning.
My mother was very deeply religious and saved, so I really patterned my life after her because she brought me up the right way.
From past to present, the First Lady of a Jackson church reflects on Mother's Day after a personal loss. It's Sunday morning. We're putting faith in focus. I'm hoping you had a wonderful Mother's Day, and I'm reminded of this passage from Proverbs, chapter 31, verse 28, if you want to look it up. Listen now. Her children rise up and call her blessed, her husband also, and he praises her. Right there, they're talking about every day, not just Mother's Day. So, when you're talking about when your children are grown and your husband passed away, what then? We're exploring that question at Church on Bailey Avenue, putting faith in focus. The First Lady of Greater Mount Sinai Baptist Church walks to her seat. Olivia Barnes has held that title for 48 years. During that time, her husband, the pastor Albert Barnes, could rarely make time for her on busy Sunday, Mother's Day mornings.
Other days, usually he fixed breakfast for me and brought it to me in my room. So I really miss him. I really miss him, especially today because he always had something special.
since his death only months ago, she says she's finding more support from her children.
We pray for black mothers who suffer due to unemployment, insufficient housing, and poor health care.
At Mount Sinai, during this service, there's an emphasis on the difficulties of being a mother through life.
I am blessed to have had children that I had no problems with. Because now some people raise their children in church, but somehow, you know, when they get a certain age, they go their own way. But I was blessed that mine didn't. Every one of mine are born-again Christians. In fact, my son is a minister here.
And as her daughter stands before the congregation as music director, she says her kids, all grown up, have become more aware of their roles as caretakers following her husband's death. She doesn't know how much longer she'll be the first lady here, but in her family, she says she knows her lessons as a parent have rubbed off. As she grows older, she sees herself in her son and daughters.
You know, when she found out I drove somewhere, she would get upset. You know? So now, since her dad's gone, she's taking the car. But she tells me, though, anytime you want to go anywhere, I don't care what I'm doing, I'll drop it, and I'll come get you and take you. That means a lot. It really does.
The church is currently working to identify a new pastor, and First Lady Barnes plans to still stay active. In fact, she was out at the church that morning prepping for a Mother's Day prayer breakfast starting at 7 a.m. That's early and dedicated. We'll be right back.
This is WJTV News Channel 12 this morning.
But questions they come up with, we always try to be scriptorial, because the key is that we can inform them, God can transform them. So our job is to inform them.
And many of those questions are coming from kids. Friendship Missionary Baptist Church tries to give answers and encouragement, putting faith in focus. If you are a regular viewer, you know sometimes the name of a church can make you scratch your head. Sometimes the names are difficult to pronounce. Other times they're long, like 10 words long. And there's nothing wrong with that, any of that. But this morning, we're visiting a church where its message is clear all the way down to its name. That name, Friendship. We're visiting this Edwards Church during Youth Day. It's Sunday morning. We're putting faith in focus.
I'm a ninth grader at Raymond Freshman Academy.
The church stops to listen to Nigel Cheney.
These stories feature suspense, foreshadowing, and overcoming fear.
He's not reading from the Bible. He's reading an essay that will be published in an amateur writer's book. He's sharing by the request of church leadership.
My goal currently is to become a writer. I'm encouraged by a lot of people in the church. My family, the friends around me, my pastor.
Anybody ashamed of being saved? Every third Sunday, it'd be Youth Day. It'd be our spotlight. We have youth ushers, we have youth praise team, we have youth deacons, and third Sunday dedicated aside strictly for the youth department. We have boys ministry as well, called Mind Ministry. Youth choirs, glory be to God. We're trying to educate them and teach them. We realize that if we would form them, inform them, and then they can be transformed into great productive citizens for the kingdom as well as the state of Mississippi. And we thank God for them this morning. Have Sister Jay as their teacher.
The church has had growth in the last decade, and Pastor Bobby Burke says it's because of their commitment to kids and the message they've adopted, letting people know if you're a part of the church, others will be there for you.
We have people coming from Vicksburg, Clinton, but most is a community neighborhood church, a loving church. Our theme is teamwork, make the dream work here at Friendship Missionary Baptist Church.
The author foreshadows the upcoming attack.
Well, I'm thinking about a lot because my relationship with God basically gives me power to get through life.
To get through life, he says, and right now, the power to get through high school. And that is a long-standing church in Edwards. The pastor tells us it's been around for not 50 years, not 100 years, but 137 years. That means the church opened its doors the same year Thomas Edison announced the invention of the phonograph.